What's up everyone, it's Ozzy from OzTalksHW, and the other day I was browsing Reddit at work because who actually works at work, and I came across this post where a user was actually able to SLI GTX 750 Ti's. Now this really piqued my interest because 750 Ti's do not natively support SLI, so I dove a little bit deeper into the post. There are a few reasons why the 750 Ti's don't support SLI natively, and I will get into that a little bit later, but what really caught my eye was the fact that these 750 Ti scaled really well, and they were nearing a GTX 970 performance. That got me thinking, I have a lot of dirt cheap NVIDIA video cards laying around that do not officially support SLI, but if I could SLI them together, it wouldn't be an awful choice from a price to performance standpoint, especially those really cheap GT 730s and 640s that have a modest amount of VRAM, 2 to 4 gigs. With that in mind, I pulled out my trusty GT 1030s, and yes, this is like the 5th or 6th GT 1030 video on this channel. But these cards are just so awesome, especially if you can get them for 80 bucks or less, but I digress. I pulled them out and I got to work to make this a reality. Program used is different SLI Auto, specifically version 1.7.1. It's a driver modifier that allows you to SLI mixed video cards, say a GTX 660 and 760, and enables SLI on products that don't have it already enabled, even on motherboards that do not support SLI, such as Crossfire only motherboards. And yes, before you ask, most if not all NVIDIA video cards that came out after SLI was released do have SLI capabilities. It's just that some of them have them locked, and they're locked behind the driver, not the actual hardware on the GPU. While NVIDIA only officially supports SLI through the SLI bridge using PCIe Express 8 lanes or better, you can unofficially run SLI through your motherboard chipset using PCIe Express 4 lanes. A physical hardware connection through the SLI bridge offers lower latency and more bandwidth over a connection through software, and that really should be a primary mode of connection if you are using SLI, but the former is possible, evident with a different auto SLI. Different SLI Auto bypasses NVIDIA's official requirements by soft binding the current NVIDIA video card drivers to allow SLI. A Tech Power Up user, whose name I cannot pronounce, so sorry for that, first released the driver mod in January 2012, and although it's had limited support since then, the community has kept it alive and it runs on modern drivers and modern architecture. I installed 2 GT 1030s on my Ryzen 7 2700X test bench, followed the very clear and easy to follow instructions that came with different SLI Auto, and got the software working relatively quickly. And in some games, it works pretty well. Scaling ranged anywhere from 9% in Rocket League, which doesn't even support official SLI configurations very well, all the way up to 46% in Overwatch and 96% in the graphics benchmark score of 3D Mark Skydiver. That's in the range of R9 280s and 380s from AMD and the GTX 960 and 1050 Ti from nvidia. But as you probably know, synthetic benchmarks do not always correlate to in-game performance, so I popped in my EVGA SSC 1050 Ti and ran some benchmarks. The 1050 Ti won in all the benchmarks but CSGO, and the 1030 SLI configuration was on its heels in 3D Mark Skydiver. Of course, this SLI configuration does not come without its downfalls. For this specific setup, you need to pay 90 bucks for each of the video cards because that's where 1030s sit nowadays, so that means you're paying almost 200 bucks for a configuration that is not guaranteed to work very well, evident in Rocket League, for example. If you're going to pay that much money for a video card setup, it's better to get a single card such as a 1050 Ti, perhaps a used 1060, or a used GTX 700 or 900 series card. Secondly, Windows must run in test mode for different SLI Auto to function correctly. For offline games and a handful of online ones, this is no big deal, but for games that use BattleEye anti-cheat software and other anti-cheat software such as Smite, PUBG, Fortnite, and Far Cry 5, BattleEye will throw an anti-cheat error upon launch. Test mode allows custom kernels and software signatures, and BattleEye rightfully prevents their games from running with test mode on. And considering the popularity of the games I just listed, I understand how that can be a deal breaker for a lot of people. And lastly, with multi-GPU support and DirectX 12 coming more to the forefront, SLI and Crossfire X are unfortunately dying off. Now this could be a whole nother video for a whole nother time, so I won't dive deep into this, but basically devs have slowed down their support for SLI and Crossfire X configurations in their games, especially within the last 3, 4, 5 years. They're dying breeds in all honesty, and as more people migrate to Windows 10, Microsoft is really pushing Windows 10. I can see how devs will completely stop support for SLI and Crossfire X in about 5 years in favor for multi-GPU support. All in all, different SLI auto is awesome, and I'm glad support keeps improving. If you have crummy GT video cards laying around, then I highly recommend that you just try it out because you really have nothing to lose. In a similar vein, if you don't have crummy video cards laying around, but if your motherboard has 2 PCIe slots and you have 2 video cards laying around, then go for it. I don't recommend relying heavily on different SLI auto because it's not guaranteed to work firstly with every game, as you saw with most of the online games I tested or the popular ones, and it's not guaranteed to work with every video card configuration out there. Also, it's much better to get an equally priced single video card as opposed to a dual GPU setup in the lower end and mainstream market. I'm sure most of you already know that. Most of the time, that's a better choice. I won't use it in my main rig. I'm going to be using it in mostly scrapyard builds or fun builds for the channel, and really nothing more than that. It's going to be a very lax use of the software. But that's it for this video, guys. If you liked it, then leave a like. If you loved it, share and subscribe. If you have any friends, relatives, neighbors, pets, grandparents, sisters, second cousins that have cheap crummy video cards, GT210s or 640s or 710s, ask them to borrow it because I really want to see what kind of performance you can get with more than one installed on your motherboard. Also, if you guys are feeling generous, then feel free to go over to my Patreon and support me. It's only $1 a month at the cheapest, and it goes up to about $25 a month, and it really does help the channel a lot. You get a lot of awesome perks and first looks into new videos, so keep that in mind. Besides that, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.